Welcome, nerds, to another episode of The Week in Nerddom. Today's episode, we're talking about some free anime for all you anime heads. The Dune TV show is undergoing some changes. We have a couple of huge trailer releases to talk about, and an even huger, if that's a word, Flash rumor that we really have to elaborate on. So all of that and a bunch more in today's episode. So before we get into the news, let's talk about the housekeeping ever so briefly. First and foremost, there is nothing that should be messing with the schedule this week. I mean, already my schedule's a little off, as evidenced by a couple of things we're going to touch on here in a second. But as far as the Friday show goes, and as far as the regularly scheduled show next Wednesday, we should be mostly okay. That being said, to explain what's been going on at the beginning of this week, some quasi-personal stuff kind of dropped on Saturday that bled into Sunday that really screwed up my Monday, and then everything was just kind of down the pipes from there. So That Just Happened episode from last week, as well as the Shout Out Show episode that should have gone up last week, will be going up. They are somewhere in the middle of an edit right now. They just, I've been dealing with things. So they will be going up very, very shortly, probably right about the same time as this episode. And then the Shout Out Show and the That Just Happened, whoa, words, will both for this week be going up at their normal time, Saturday night. And those of you over on the other outlets, Big Show Entertainment Network, as well as Nerdy Legion, the Big Show actually probably hasn't seen much difference. Everything should be fine for you guys over on that side of things. But Nerdy Legion, we had some administrative things going on, and I could not access the server, but that has been fixed. So you should be getting a whole bunch of episodes in a very rapid succession. All of that being said, I think that's what we have for housekeeping for this. If anything changes, we will be talking about it on the Friday show, which, remember, Friday is the live show that we do on the main YouTube channel, Generally Nerdy. So go check that out. Otherwise, if you're on one of the syndicated outlets, then you will catch all of that information on Saturday. So that is what we've got for housekeeping. Let's get to the news. Music news is where we start every episode. So we have one follow-up. We've been keeping kind of tabs on Staind recently because they've been doing some reunion shows, and Aaron Lewis has been pretty active, but the rest of the band's Mike Mushak and the rest have not been all that active. All of that being said, it seems that they are now finally recording their first new studio record in 12 years. So that has officially been announced. They are writing the material. I do not believe that they are recording just yet, though I'm unfamiliar with their writing and recording process. So the two could be correlated very directly, or they could do it like other bands and write in a very separate session from recording and therefore not in studio. So not exactly sure on all of the specifics, but as we get closer, we will be talking about it. So let's move right along. In new music, we have some bands that honestly I was just trying to expand my horizons and therefore your horizons by association. So if you are interested in some of these bands, some of these are bands that we've been talking about previously, or just new music from bands that, you know, the channel is fans of effectively. So let's start at the top and then go from there. First up, Svalbard, I'm pretty sure is how you pronounce the name of this band. The name of the song is Eternal Spirits. The reason this one caught my eye is because this song is dedicated specifically to Joey Jordison, but also to metal icons that we have lost throughout the years. Was kind of as the interview went when they released this this track. The interview kind of, they elaborated on it, and they said, you know, not just Joey, but Joey. The song itself, is pretty middle of the road death metal. Like, it's not terrible, but the production value is actually pretty solid, so not something you can always say about the death metal genre. But if you're not into death metal, this isn't a standout track of the genre, so it's not really going to change your mind much. Though if you are into death metal, this is pretty solid by all the tent poles and such, but again, nothing really to write home about. So the weak recommend, I guess. Next is a band called Slumbering Sun. The name of the song is Liminal Bridges. This is a new release from a new-ish band. I didn't really go too deep into who the band is. It just, you know, new music, so let's talk about it. The genre that I would put this in is a very interesting state of affairs. It's kind of stoner metal without the metal, necessarily. It's like kind of hard rock, but in the vein of stoner metal. Not really doom. It's not that downtrodden. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what's going on here, though I don't know if I'm ever going to come to a final conclusion, because even so, the sum of its parts should be greater than the rest of it, right? And I don't think that's really what's going on here. Now let's get into some stuff that we've talked about before, some bands and music that is related to things that have been a recurring thing on the channel. First up is Firstborn. If you'll remember, Firstborn is the band that Chris Adler has joined since leaving Lamb of God. We talked previously about a single that they released a few months back. They have released a new single called Sinners, and man, for somebody who thinks that Lamb of God is too formulaic, Chris Adler is definitely making music that is transparent, not just formulaic, but like you can see where the change is coming as soon as the previous change. It's just, this is not good. I don't know what the hell is wrong with Chris these days, but he used to make amazing music. He used to be a drummer that drummers looked up to. The stuff on this record, from what we've seen so far, any high school drummer could do this kind of stuff, let alone somebody as freaking talented as Chris Adler. So yeah, this is a hard not recommend. Steer clear, honestly, of the band Firstborn. They're not good. Then let's talk about Cradle of Filth has released a new single, and this one doesn't come from their previous release, the previous record that they put out, Existence is Futile. We talked about that when it released. We talked about the singles that came out of that one. This one, though, is called She is a Fire. Let's get the name exactly right, shall we? This comes from a new live record that they just announced is coming out. This is their first live record in 21 years. The previous live record was Live Bait from 2002. That's right, 2002 was the last time Cradle of Filth put out a live record. This is not a live recording anyway. If you follow the link in the description, it is one of 2 original tracks on the record. It is a double album. The name of the record, let's not get ahead of ourselves, name of the record is Trouble and Their Double Lives. So kind of a little bit of wordplay there. This is Cradle of Filth. If you like Cradle of Filth, you're going to love this. Production is stellar. Everybody's delivery and performance is exactly where Dani Filth wants it. So if you like Cradle, you're going to really, really like this. If you don't like Cradle, this ain't changing anybody's mind. It's solid as far as a Cradle of Filth song goes, but I would much rather listen to better black metal. But that's just me. New music out of the way, let's talk about some regular ass news. Regular ass news, we have, honestly, alright, so we have 2 to talk about. I didn't put one of them in the notes. I'm not even sure I'm going to put it in the show notes in post, just because it's going to be ever so brief. The secondary one is a little bit more interesting, but the first one, we have to get it out of the way. Good God, Lizzo, kinda, sorta covered about 30 seconds of Du Hast from Rammstein while performing in Germany. It's a Lizzo concert, so you can, like, use your imagination with what that is. I have seen only roughly about 10 seconds before the 30 seconds of Rammstein, then roughly 10 seconds after the 30 seconds of Rammstein, and it's pretty much what I expected a Lizzo concert to be. And I mean, it's kind of cool that she's aware that Rammstein's a thing, but Is this something that we really needed to spend time talking about? I feel bad even including it here. That's why it's not in the notes, because I was like, am I going to talk about it? We'll decide when we're in front of the camera. And yeah, I feel like it needs to be at least passively mentioned because, and this is the reason why I finally came to the conclusion, all right, let's talk about it. Because one of the things we talk about a lot in the music section is the general acceptance of more extreme forms of music. The general acceptance, very specifically, of metal music. I mean, we do talk about other genres on the channel, but largely, I'm a metalhead. That's the kind of news I cover here in the music section of the news show. So it's significant to me that somebody as mainstream as Lizzo is... I'm not going to say that she's broadening anyone's horizons because it's Germany and Rammstein's kind of their biggest musical export in any sort of significant amount of time. So I'm sure everybody at that concert at least knows who Rammstein is, probably has a pretty decent appreciation for the band Rammstein, or, I mean, I used to work with a German guy who thought Rammstein were, fascists, and that's definitely not who Rammstein is. So there are definitely people from Germany who don't understand Rammstein because it's industrial heavy metal, and that means it's bad, and so they must be talking about things that Germans would associate with bad, right? Not the case, but we're birdwalking a little bit. Again, the significant thing here is that this is something that is getting major mainstream music outlet news coverage, which means, generally speaking, we're becoming more and more accepted, and more people are going to like this genre that we generally like as metalheads. So yeah, that's why it's significant. I don't give a crap that Lizzo was twerking or whatever the hell she was doing while she was singing the song. I also think it's hilarious that she didn't know the words in order to properly cover the song. She knows Du hast mich, and that's about it. So she kept saying like Oma because she had learned, according to a number of news articles that I read about this, she learned that previous in the day before this performance, learned that Oma was grandma in German. I think it was Oma. It might be Ima. I can't remember. My German's pretty damn rusty, the bit that I do know. So yeah, she kept injecting that word into like, sure, it sounds German. Let's put that there. It goes anywhere, right? Because I know German words now. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a laughingstock. It's kind of making a mockery, but she at least knows who Rammstein is, which means now millions of her fans know who Rammstein is, and maybe that's going to expand the appreciation for the genre just a little bit. Now let's get to real damn news. This one honestly is another pop star. We're talking about Justin Bieber, but there is a bigger picture here as well. So Justin Bieber, very recently, within the last month, I believe, though I didn't include the time frame in the notes because it's fairly irrelevant. Justin Bieber sold the rights to his entire catalog of music. So everything that has Justin Bieber's name on it from when he started up until 2021, I believe, is now property of, what's the name of the song management company? Hipgnosis, the Hipgnosis. So Hipgnosis. This is significant because a number of things. First, the rights, the only way an artist makes music or makes money on their music is by owning the rights and the masters to the songs so that nobody can do anything with it without their permission. Because when the record label owns the rights and or the masters, then they have a lot more say in, you know, where the money goes, and that just doesn't equal a good payday for the artist in the end. So it's significant that he's doing that. It's also significant that Hipgnosis Song Management is the name of this company, that they're the ones that bought it for a reported $200 million, though that has not been officially stated. That is an estimate. This song management company also owns the rights to much of Metallica's back catalog, as well as Michael Bublé, which is kind of funny. But just very interesting that Bieber is doing this, and that I previously, up until this, thought that Metallica maintained the rights to their own music, but no, apparently they don't. So they could be making a lot more freaking money. But again, the big picture here is just potentially this could be Bieber trying to do some sort of artist, I want all of the things that I write myself to be mine, and everything he wrote up until 2021 had a team of writers or, you know, a producer writing it and giving it to him, and he had very little say in the music. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe he wants to go forward as an artist, which I guess there's honor in that, but this is just so interesting because this is so endemic. Very famously, Paul McCartney said to Michael Jackson at one point, you want to make money in the music industry, buy the rights to songs. And then very shortly thereafter, the rights to the Beatles music came up for sale because the Beatles at the time did not own much of the rights to their own music, and so Michael Jackson bought the rights to a very large chunk of the Beatles catalog, which, you know, that's honestly how he made a lot of money. Michael Jackson, before he died, also owned the rights to a lot of Pearl Jam music, which is also very funny to me. So yeah, this is where the money is in the music industry, and Bieber just signed it away. And Metallica apparently has at least a chunk of their catalog signed away in the same fashion. So yeah, just, I don't know. What do you guys make of this? I'm giving you information that maybe you don't have any use for, but now you're going to win at trivia when you go to the bar next weekend. That's what we got for regular ass news. So let's talk music suggestions, baby. This week's musical suggestion is a record that just came out from a band called In Flames. The name of the record is Foregone. It came out February 10th, and you really need to be listening to some In Flames. These guys have basically a whole subgenre of metal in their image. If you like metalcore, if you like anything resembling that, then a lot of those bands were very directly influenced by this band. And this band puts on a hell of a... These dudes are in their 50s, and I just saw them live, and they put on a hell of a show, and they played a good chunk of the stuff off this record. I've listened to this record a little bit since it's been out, and just great metal music. Go check out Foregone from In Flames. Now let's get into the gaming and tech side of things, shall we? First up, we do have a follow-up where we're talking about Elden Ring. Elden Ring just, FromSoft, I guess, specifically, just announced that Elden Ring is getting an expansion, not just DLC. This is not just downloadable content. This is like a legit expansion to the game. We're talking about a few more hours and hours of gameplay, and just the world is going to be getting significantly larger. The name of this expansion is, where did it go? Shadow of the Erd Tree. I have yet to play Elden Ring, so I don't know the significance of the Erd Tree, but there you go. That's really all we know. There's not a whole lot as far as they haven't released the release date for this just yet, but when they do, we will talk about it. That's what we got for follow-ups. Let's move into trailers because we did get 2 of those. One of them more gameplay than trailer, but still. First one is Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. This game actually has just come out. There is a release trailer is what we're talking about, linked down in the description. Nintendo is in the remake game these days, and this is the most recent one. This game actually released on the Wii, but there's some extra stuff added here. You got a couple extra hours worth of material, as well as a prelude that is called, or epilogue rather, that is called I'm not going to say this character's name right, and I'm sorry. Magolor Epilogue, the Interdimensional Traveler. So they're adding a whole new character, as well as a little bit of story attached to that character, and I'm digging it. Kirby's great fun. This is 2.5D. Some of the best Kirby gameplay that you're ever going to play is 2D Kirby, though the new 3D Kirby I've heard good things about. I have yet to play it though. So yeah, just significant. Go watch the trailer. Let's move to the next one, and that is Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. This game is still scheduled to come out May 26th. This is some gameplay action. It's not, again, not technically a trailer, but we did get gameplay footage. This is highlighting the crazy team-up mechanics in the game. This looks so freaking solid. This is the proper heir to the throne of the Arkham Asylum series, not the Gotham Knights game. That looks great, but I, again, haven't played it yet because I have not heard good things about gameplay as associated to the Gotham Knights. So there is that. That's what we have for trailers. Let's talk about regular-ass news. We got a fair bit of that in gaming and tech, so we're going to try and push through as much as possible. So we have Microsoft news to talk about that has nothing to do with Activision Blizzard. Well, at least not on the surface. So, Microsoft has struck a new deal with Nvidia that is going to take all of the games on the, the name of the damn service is escaping me, Game Pass, there we go. All of the games on Game Pass are going to be available on Nvidia's proprietary, Nvidia Go, GeForce Now, that's what it was, GeForce Now service, which is basically just Game Pass that Nvidia does. So this is pretty huge because part of the reason they did this was to garner the favor of somebody like Nvidia. And the more people in their industry that they can get favor of that are supportive of the Activision Blizzard merger, purchase, takeover, whatever you want to call it, the more people they can get in their corner, the better. So at this point, they have a whole lot of people in there. I would say there's more people industry-wise anyway, not necessarily regulator-wise, but industry-wise, there are more companies in their corner than not in their corner at this point. Basically, it's just Sony and a couple of third-party developers that don't have a whole lot of sway when it comes to stuff like this. Nvidia, though, huge. And the fact that they're willing to take their properties, all of the things on Game Pass, and license them out to another platform is pretty significant. I don't know why anyone would necessarily, I mean, unless you're opposed to having multiple platforms, because the Steam and Xbox Game Pass and Nvidia Go, or Nvidia GeForce Now rather, if you don't want to have all of these free things on your computer, then I guess it makes sense to try and consolidate, but I don't understand the necessity out of that from a practical standpoint. Either way, significant in that this is probably going to help push the Activision thing through just a little bit easier. Next, we are talking about IO Interactive, the studio behind Hitman, the Hitman game franchise, as well as other things. Not the least of which, the upcoming 007 game that still we only know as Project 007, but is happening. They now just announced that they are going to be developing alongside that 007 game, a fantasy game. That's really all we got. We got one piece of concept art, but that's really it. This is IO Interactive is getting a little IO Interactive is getting a little lofty with their goals, but I don't know. It could pay off. It could be great. Let's just hope for the best, right? Next is the biggest one for me, anyway, because this happened last week. Actually, I think this might have happened a little over a week ago, but I don't know, it felt like a rumor to me at first. It felt like something that shouldn't be happening, and all of a sudden it happened so fast. We have officially, Mortal Kombat 12 has been announced. This happened kind of by accident because David Zaslav was doing the earnings report with all of the stockholders in the Warner Brothers Discovery Company, and part of that report was Zaslav saying that we are going to see Mortal Kombat 12 by the end of this year. Now, there have been a number of other YouTubers speculating as to when the official announcement and trailer and so on and so forth. All of these things are going to happen before the launch of the game. Previously, I speculated that we would see the announcement happen by the end of the year, but I was very doubtful that we would see the actual game. Though, if we consider the fact that it is very likely been in development for approximately 4 years, since that's when Mortal Kombat 11 came out, then it makes sense that it could come out this year. So everyone seems to be in agreement that the likely release time frame for Mortal Kombat 12 is the end of the year, very timely release for the holiday season, so probably sometime in November, maybe at the earliest late October, but that's a little bit of a stretch even for speculation territory. The announcement, the proper announcement from NetherRealm Studios, though, many are speculating it's going to be at E3, though there is a noteworthy divergence from that theory, and that seems to be coming from True Underdog. I think was the only one who I think has put it into reasonable terms, though I think he's very much underestimating what E3 is going to be this year. He seems to think it's going to happen sometime in April or March, because those are the only two months this year leading up to the holiday season that we don't have any significant tournaments or anything dealing with Mortal Kombat directly already. So sometime in April or March is what True Underdog is considering. I think that's probably fairly accurate. I think at E3 we will see, before E3 we will see an announcement. We will get some sort of trailer, and that's probably about it. At E3 we will get some character announcements, and then from there is where Combat Cast is going to pick back up, and we're going to see the likes of I can't remember all of their names. Josh, Stephanie, and the other guy. The developers, the social media types, and you know, the people who do the Combat Cast for NetherRealm Studios. So super excited about that. That is one line of notes in this, and we just went on for like 10 minutes about it, so I apologize, but that's what we got there. Let's move right on to our last piece for this section, and that is a new show called Tabletop News. So I'm going to read this because it comes directly from the press release, and I'm just really intrigued by it, so I want to get the information to you as properly as possible. So Two Kings Entertainment is launching a weekly online news show called Tabletop News, covering the world of tabletop RPGs, card games, and board games. The show will include actual play streams, competitive tournaments, and general shows. It will be hosted by a rotating cast including Becca Scott, Carlos Luna, Michelle Nguyen, Nagoya Bradley, Xander Genere, Katie Wilson, Sharina Marie, and Nathan Ondetrek. I don't know who those people are, but I'm sure that means something to the tabletop community. All of that being said, the show is described as, and this is the reason why I think it's cool, because I really want to do something like this myself, is described as Sports Center meets tabletop. So this is the big reason why I put this in here for today is kind of a conversation starter, because we've kind of, I rather have briefly mentioned a number of times how I think that the competitive gaming world is getting things a little bit wrong, in that each game that has a competition based around it is insular. It is only that one game. So right now, Halo and Apex and Splitgate all have their own leagues, right? So but they're all effectively the same. Well, I don't know. The argument could be made that Apex is different because it's a battle royale first-person shooter, but still first-person shooter, so it kind of still fits. The thing that we've talked about previously is the way I think. Let's go back just a step. Competitive gaming does not make money. That is the issue here. So when we compare the gaming sphere to traditional sports and media sphere, its traditional sports and media is very, very lucrative. That's why, you know, the XFL exists, because The Rock wants to get in on that. So when you take that model and apply it to gaming, it should theoretically equal also a lucrative outcome, because there are many, many more fans of gaming, I feel, in my personal purview anyway, than there are of sporting events. So the thing that I think isn't being translated properly is the manner in which you are presenting your sport or your game in this sport. So you have, and this analogy is going to go a little bit wonky because, again, the XFL does exist now, but you have many teams that play football in the NFL. Football is the presentation. Football is the thing that you want to watch, and then the teams around it play the thing. The translation here should not be football equals Halo. The translation, I think, in order to make this a lucrative business idea, is football equals FPS. Football equals fighting game. And the fighting game community actually kind of is doing this, because some of the larger tournaments are multi-game tournaments. So you have EVO, is doing Street Fighter and Tekken. We talked about it previously. I even did a short about it on the other channel. But yeah, so it's similar, but it's not the same. I feel like what it should be is you have a team of players. You have this group of 4 dudes plays round 1, and round 1 is Halo. And there's a lottery as to which version of Halo they're playing. So it creates a little bit of chaos almost that's enjoyable for the fans to watch, because that player there, he's really good at Halo Combat Evolved, but he sucks at Halo Infinite, we'll say. Or this guy here really excels at Halo 3 and kind of works well in Infinite, but man, if they roll Halo 5 for this round, he's screwed. You know, something along those lines. And then you have another group of 4 players that is on the same team as this previous group that plays round 2. And in round 2, you're playing Splitgate, or you're playing, you know, I think the hyper focus on one game is where the money is falling apart. So something like this tabletop news, obviously they wouldn't cover FPS games, but you know, if there was something like this for just e-gaming in general, then you could cover a team and cover in an individual player, and their stats would be based on per game. His average kill death spread on Halo Infinite is 3.2, and his average kill death spread in Splitgate is 2.1. So you know, that makes it a little bit more interesting. And I'm rambling, and that's what we got. But I want to pass this off to you guys. So do you watch esports? Do you watch any of the HCS, the Halo Championship Series? Do you watch any of the Apex Legends tournaments? Do you watch any of that stuff? Competitive Minecraft exists as well. I don't know what you would lump Minecraft in with. And then second is, do you find that there is plenty of potential growth in the esports viewing side of things, or is it just kind of doomed to fail inherently? Let's talk about that one, shall we? That is all of the regular ass news. So let's talk about gaming and tech suggestions. This time we're going with a game, and it's a classic, man. Batman Arkham Asylum. With the impending release of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, the proper spiritual successor to Arkham Asylum, the Arkham Asylum series, I guess I should say, it's good to go back to your roots and see where it all started, because yeah, that game, even the sequels are good, but nothing quite so game-changing as the original. So go check out Batman Arkham Asylum this week. That is your homework. All right, nerds, if this is news to you, if this is very informative, if this is the kind of stuff that you care about and you don't really want to hear about politics, then by all means, I want to have you... then by all means, consider hitting the subscribe button if you haven't already, just so that YouTube knows that this is a thing that you like, and let's get back into it. Next is comic books and literature, aka books. And we're talking first, we got some trailers. We got a trailer anyway, and that's for this new Guardians of the Galaxy book that's coming out. It will be on shelves April 12th. The beginning mini arc, I believe is what they're saying, or they might not have even said that. I might be making that up. But the beginning story that they're going, conflict, I guess is even better, that they're going to be dealing with is entitled Grootfall, and I was hoping that when this trailer launched, it would explain that a little bit more, but it really doesn't. So I'm very intrigued by this. The writer, the creative team involved, writer is Colin Kelly, and then we get art from Jackson Lansing and Kev Walker. So not super familiar with any of these guys' work previously, but based on this trailer, I'm digging it. I really like the art. It doesn't do much for the story, but the story's already got me intrigued because I want to know what the hell's wrong with Groot and why isn't he in any of the promotional materials before this trailer. That's very interesting, right? So yeah, there's the trailer. Let's talk about regular ass news. We got Night Terrors is a new DC book that has just, or DC storyline that has just been announced. Joshua Williamson is set to write the new main arc once we get to it. It will start in July. The art will be from Howard Porter, Guillaume March, and others. In Night Terrors, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman find the body of one of their earliest enemies at the Hall of Justice. Their investigation takes them past the land of the living, beyond the land of the dead, and into the realm of nightmares. The only way to save the world is to call for help of an unlikely hero, Deadman. I can get behind a good Deadman story, right? That sounds pretty interesting. Nightmares obviously spelled with a K because Dark Knight, hence nightmares. Get it? Okay. So yeah, super intriguing. That's all we got though. So let's move right along into comic book literature suggestion for the week. This one is one of my favorite Batman stories of all time. I'm talking about Batman Death of the Family. Not Death in the Family. Death in the Family, also great. Not what we're talking about though. Death of the Family is Scott Snyder writing angry Joker. This is definitely not the classic Joker. I actually have a really good friend who is a bigger comic book nerd than I, who is not a big fan of Scott Snyder's Joker, but I feel like in this book it works super well. So Batman Death of the Family, Snyder is not the only writer if you get the omnibus collection in the trade, but he is the main writer. He is the brain, he is the creator of the story arc, and then we get art from like Capullo and other amazing art. Jock is one of the main artists in this too, so you get some really beautiful art, just a really cool story, and it is a different way to view the Joker. This is, again, not classic Joker, but really mad, angry Joker with a very singular vision, which you don't get very often, and I kind of appreciate. Let's get into episodic shows, shall we? Episodic and movies is actually no, episodic is kind of huge. Movies, kind of tiny. So episodic, let's talk about it. First up, we have some follow-ups. In the follow-up section, we're going to start at the top, and that is House of the Dragon. Casey Bloys, content CEO at HBO Max, which very soon is just going to be called Max, has confirmed that season 2 will not air until 2024, very specifically the summer of 2024. Don't know any more specifics than that, but you know, don't get your hopes up for seeing season 2 in 2023, because it ain't happening. They've got a lot of filming and a lot of like after post work to do, so yeah, go just hold your horses. Next in the follow-up section, we have Dune Sisterhood, also going to HBO Max. It's getting a little bit of a shakeup though. We lost a director, we lost a lead actor. Let's talk about that. So Johan Renck, executive producer of Chernobyl, also the director of this series, has stepped down. He was directing 2 of the episodes, so it's not as big as like the showrunner stepping down. But that does, you know, put a wrench in things because they have to find a replacement, and so daily production cannot continue without him. And then also actress Shirley Henderson has also left the project. She was going to be Helen Mohaim, I believe. I didn't put in the notes because I take amazing notes, but yeah, so she was one of the leads, though I just can't remember which character she was supposed to be playing, and that is pretty significant. Also, all of the shakeups that are going on over at DC, or at Warner Brothers rather, Warner Brothers Discovery specifically, right now, just kind of, oof. They're going to have to bump this one back, aren't they? They haven't officially made that statement just yet, but they also haven't officially talked about the release date for the Sisterhood yet, so expect it to get pushed back. We just don't know by how much. So next up in the follow-ups and corrections, we have official confirmation. Previously, we talked about the Monsterverse and the new Legendary Monsterverse and how the Apple TV Plus series may or may not be tied into the new Legendary Monsterverse of Godzilla and King Kong, so on and so forth. Well, now we have official word that they are, in fact, going to be related. It is very specifically going to be the Adam Wingard film, the next film that is coming out, but that then also ties it to the other films that have come out previously, so I don't know about going forward from here, where things are going to happen. We don't know that yet, but when we do, we'll talk about it. That's what we got for follow-ups. Let's talk about trailers. We got our first trailer for Season 2 of Shadow and Bone. I have heard nothing but good things about Season 1. Haven't had the time myself to watch it because day jobs suck, but yeah, have not heard anything bad. Season 2 will premiere March 16th of this year over on Netflix. Go check out the trailer, again linked in the description. And then we're talking about one of the Walking Dead spin-off shows, the kind of shakiest of the lot, and that is Walking Dead Dead City. We finally got a trailer that might indicate why Negan and Maggie have decided to team up. With the way the mainline series ended, Maggie has zero interest in doing anything with Negan, even though Negan had an incredible character arc, especially over the course of the last 3 seasons. Good Lord, it was amazing. If you haven't watched it, you really owe it to yourself to do that, especially if you plan on watching the spin-offs, because without the mainline series, you have no idea what's going on, right? So yeah, Walking Dead, Dead City is the name of it. Something to do with Herschel. It seems Herschel gets kidnapped and somehow Negan has relation to the man suspected of kidnapping Herschel. And if you notice, Herschel is a fair bit older in this trailer, indicating that yes, it is in fact a few years after the resolution of the mainline series, which also would explain why they're in New York and not down in Georgia still. So there is that. We got a lot from that. It was like a minute trailer, minute and 20 seconds or so. And then we got Ted Lasso Season 3, just dropped a trailer. It's March 15th on Apple TV+. I mean, if you don't know Ted Lasso at this point, you don't care. So why go into any further detail? Go check out the trailer. Let's move along. We got regular ass news. First up, we're starting on a bit of a downbeat, and that is Richard Belzer. If you don't know Richard Belzer, then you're probably not a fan of Law & Order, and I can't fault you for that, but the man was also a stand-up comedian, did a multitude of movies and other TV shows, and will be missed. If you haven't seen his stand-up, like I've seen some of his older stand-up, he was really funny. How did he end up on Law & Order? Again, Hollywood is now down one really fantastic character actor, so let's take a moment for Richard Belzer.
Well, thank you very much. Calm down, guys. They're all waiting to the crowd and drink your beer for you. Relax. I know you're drunk and you're mindless and you're from the valley, but calm down, man. Turn these lights up a little more. I'm going to go legal. Babe, don't push me because I'll beat up your date, okay? Thank you. Really. He'll be limping the rest of his life. It's going to be on your conscience. Yeah. Anyway, so why don't you go outside and practice falling down? I'll be out in a minute, all right, babe? Thank you. Can you get more bruises on your leg, or how's that work? Bruises on her leg. Camera, come here, come here. Do you have wheels on that? What is this, camera 2? Bring it up, bring it in as far as you can. Wheel it up. You can't? Can you show us those bruises, please? Yeah, okay. Who, did you cause those bruises, babe? They're your bruises? You're proud of that, putting bruises on a woman? Not a woman, a women. How did you? Good. Okay. That
brings us to our only other piece of regular ass news here in the TV or the episodic section. It's going to take so long for me to get used to saying that. And that is anime on YouTube. There is free anime for those who are looking for it. And, you know, you don't have to go find one of those channels that has like the actual video just down here and then the rest of it is something to throw the algorithm off. You know, they're trying to you know, it's nothing, you know, trying to get around the algorithm police or anything like that. This is legit. The person who owns the rights to these anime has put some of them, not all of them, but some of them up for free on YouTube. So what am I talking about? Viz Media owns the rights to, and you're gonna have to read this because it's quite a list. The first 8 seasons of Naruto, the complete collection for Sailor Moon, Hunter x Hunter seasons 1 through 3, 37 episodes, or all 37 episodes rather, of Death Note, as well as the complete Inuyasha series and seasons 1 and 2 of Mr. Azomatsu. So, yeah, of this list, I gotta say, of this list, I've heard good things about Hunter x Hunter. I think I've only seen like 1 episode or something. The guys over at Corridor Crew actually used it to train an AI so they could make their own anime, which is bizarre and awesome and beautiful all at once. So that's definitely worth a check out if you haven't. But on this list, as far as my personal experience, obviously Naruto has a gigantic following, but Inuyasha is kind of underappreciated as far as this list goes. I'm not a big fan of the subgenre, whatever subgenre that technically would be called, whatever Inuyasha falls into. I'm not usually into stuff like that, but man, Inuyasha was actually really, really good. Now you can watch it for free over on the Viz Media YouTube channel, so it's worth a watch for sure. All of them, it's free. Why not? Go give them a little bit of love, right? Yeah, but there is one caveat, and that is you have to be in the US in order for this to be a legit thing. They only have made it available to US users of YouTube, or, you know, what YouTube thinks are US users, i.e. you have a VPN. So that's worth noting. You might take a little bit of doing in order to watch it, but there is a legitimate way to watch it. So that's really awesome. That is all we have in regular ass news. That's everything we have for episodic content. So let's move into episodic suggestions. This one is Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 1 is... Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 1 is a thing that has happened, and you can go watch it if you have Disney Plus, or you have a really close friend who has Disney Plus. Yeah, the thing that is keeping Star Wars relevant and good is into Season 3. So here's the thing. Most shows who have this thing that kind of blows up and gets a little out of control, i.e. Grogu, i.e. Steve Urkel, I'm looking at you. Generally, when the corporate types that are in charge of production see this, they decide to lean as hard into that thing as possible. And that's not exactly what's happening with Grogu. Yes, he is still relevant. Yes, I do believe this is probably longer than was anticipated, Grogu being part of this story, but it's not all about Grogu. It is still legitimately about Mando, and I think that's amazing. Favreau's doing wonderful work, and just go watch it, won't you? Which then brings us into movies. So in movies, we're going to start with the follow-ups. First in follow-ups is Super Mario Brothers. The Super Mario Brothers movie has been bumped up by 2 days, and that seems strangely insignificant until you consider where this is getting released. So originally it was supposed to be released on April 7th. Now it is being released on April 5th. That is the Wednesday before Easter. That's right, it is a holiday weekend, so already they were going to have a little bit of a longer showing anyway. Opening weekend gets lumped into one thing, so if it's 3 days or if it's 5 days, it doesn't really matter as far as the end numbers are reported. So if you have 2 extra days to pad those numbers out, then you're going to make this thing look amazing. And honestly, I don't think it was necessary to do that, though it is going to, you know, make them a good chunk of change, and Illumination is going to be very much in charge of all of the Nintendo properties moving forward, I'm sure of it. But because everybody's going to go see Super Mario Brothers the movie anyway, because it's Super Mario Brothers the movie and it looks honestly legitimate. So yeah, that is our follow-up for movies. We do have one piece of regular ass news, and this one is very weird. So we got the new Harley Quinn, Lady Gaga, is being sued, and that's not the weirdest part. Yes, that is it's kind of strange. She's being sued because, and I'll paint it this way. Lady Gaga is being sued because she didn't pay the $500,000 reward that she offered when her dogs were kidnapped in, dognapped, I guess, in 2021. So yes, that sounds pretty horrible until you consider that the person who found her dogs, I'm very loosely using that word and obviously air quotes, the person who found her dogs, the person who found her dogs to return them is actually one of the 5 people that have since been arrested and charged with the original kidnapping of said dogs. So that lady is suing Lady Gaga for not giving her $500,000. I mean, it's the state of California, right? So weird stuff's gonna happen. Honestly, when I first heard this, until I got a little bit deeper, I was like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. This is gonna get thrown out immediately, except it's California. And then I read a little bit deeper and went, I mean, technically there might be grounds for this, because what she's being sued for is breach of contract, very specifically, I wrote it down, breach of contract and fraud. The fraud part probably going to get thrown away pretty immediately, but the breach of contract part, again, California. So That one actually might stick. I would be very surprised if it's $500,000 that this lady is awarded. Honestly, if she wins at all, I would be very unsurprised if whatever judge is ruling over said case says, all right, technically, you're right. She did breach a verbal contract by saying she would give $500,000 to whoever returned her pets. But here's $1 because you're a criminal. But again, it's California. They have a very different definition of the word criminal. So there you go. That is actually all we have for the meat and potatoes of the movie section. So that leaves only movie suggestions. And movie suggestion this week is Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. This movie came out in 2014 and 2014? Yeah, 2014. Honestly, one of my favorite movies of the last 20 years. Michael Keaton is great. Edward Norton is always a win. Emma Stone is in this. Naomi Watts is in. Just the cast is incredible. The way in which it is shot is mind-blowing. Yes, I know there's a lot of trickery going on, but it just looks so seamless. Up until the end of the movie, I think there's something like 2 actual hard cuts. Everything else looks like one continuous shot for an hour. Yeah, it's amazing. Keaton has never been this good in my eyes. Just a fantastic movie, and if you haven't seen it, you definitely should. If you have seen it, maybe revisit it because it's on HBO Max for free, so go check it out. Which brings us to everybody's favorite section, and that is the rumor mill. So in today's rumor mill, we are starting with a confirmation. That leak about Fortnite and the Creed skins is confirmed. It's actually a thing. So we put it at 85% likelihood, and we were right. So yeah, Creed skins are real. The link, if you're not playing Fortnite, then you don't care. But if you do play Fortnite, then there you go. You probably already knew this. Let's move into new sources for old rumors. This is where I think the rumor mill gets the most interesting, and that is that Batman rumor we've been keeping tabs on, that everybody has been so certain it was going to be Christian Bale as the, quote, mystery Batman cameo in the new Flash movie. Well, new sources have come to light saying that actually, no, it's going to be George Clooney. So what the rumor is there was supposed to be, at the end of this movie, was supposed to be a big reveal with Michael Keaton Batman, and that was going to set up Michael Keaton as an aging Batman in this new DCU. That got cut with the whole, you know, James Gunn, Peter Safran bit. So now, instead of having that, we're just getting a little bit of fan service cameo in George Clooney. I mean, it's just crazy enough it might be legit. We're not giving new sources this time a likelihood percentage just because I don't know how to make heads or tails of this one. Not even going to try. Not even going middle of the road on this. We're just going to hope a better source comes to light, because this one comes from not the greatest place, but as we get closer to the release of the movie, I'm sure we're going to be hearing about it. So let's move into new rumors, shall we? First up in new rumors, we're talking about Wonder Man. We have a rumor for who has been cast as the villain for this series. We still don't know who the villain is, so that doesn't help us at all. But apparently, according to rumor, Ed Harris has been cast as said unnamed villain in the first season of the Wonder Man series that's going to Disney+. So likelihood on this one, I'm giving it about 50%, because Ed Harris is definitely not a stranger to being a villain, but also a very interesting choice for a new addition to the MCU, unless they plan on killing him, in which case it kind of is what it is. And so yeah, just enough to say it could go either way, so 50-50. Next, we're talking about Loki Season 2. Big rumor here as well, and that is that, reportedly, and that is that Kang is going to have no less than 3 appearances in episodes during Season 2 for Loki. This one actually comes from quite a good source. I think, though, there is a possibility that they might be changing that, what with the very lackluster reception of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, where we get fully introduced to the potential threat of Kang, and people went, yeah, I don't see it. So maybe they're going to play this one, dial this one back a little bit, so there is a fair amount of wiggle room here, but I still think it's pretty likely, because they could also use this to bolster Kang as a legitimate threat. So it could go in its favor as well, and I honestly think it will go in its favor. So we're looking at about 70% likely that this is going to be a thing. Next, we actually have a music rumor. We don't get these guys very often, but this one's actually significant. We have the Rolling Stones are in the studio working on a new record. Not exactly news, definitely not rumor. This has been basically confirmed by most of the major music and media coverage, pop culture coverage type places. The big rumor here, though, is reportedly we're going to get a Beatles Rolling Stones crossover. Not the whole album, just a few songs. Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr both have been rumored to be making an appearance on the next Rolling Stones album. Paul McCartney laying down bass tracks for a couple songs. Reportedly, Ringo Starr also doing some drumming on at least one song. Unclear as to whether or not Paul and Ringo are going to be working on the same songs with the Stones, though I think it would be very interesting if you just got kind of peppered in there. There's a little Beatles over here and over there, and yeah, very interesting. Because this has been reported on by some bigger, like Variety and I believe Deadline, were picked up on this one as well. So that gives it a lot more legitimacy. I'm going to say 90% likely that we're going to see some Beatles action on the next Rolling Stones record, because basically by the time it hits the major trades, Variety, Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, it's as good as confirmed by that point. So very surprised if this doesn't happen at this point. Next, we're moving over to the Eternals. Apparently there is a sequel that no one wants or asked for in the works, in the very early stages, being added to the very tail end of what we know of the MCU slate at the moment. I would be rather surprised with this one. There are very few movies in the MCU slate that have been this poorly received. Actually, I can think of only two others. That I know I held up three fingers, but that's because one of them's the Eternals. So yeah, there are only two other movies that are this bad, and that's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and oh god, what was the other one? Thor, not Ragnarok, the Dark World, right? That one was the other one that got really, really negative. But Eternals had a pretty bad audience score as well, if I'm remembering this correctly. It's not in the notes because, again, I take fantastic notes. You should know this by now. But still, very, very surprised if we see a direct sequel to the Eternals. Will we see the Eternals characters show up in other Marvel movies? Yeah, probably down the road. That's almost a given. But will we see an Eternals 2, a sequel to one of the worst Marvel movies ever? Yeah, honestly, well, I'm putting this one at about 25%, and I think that's even generous. Not bloody likely. Let's move right along. Next, we're talking about Secret Wars, the series that we know they're working on it. They've told us they're working on it, but they still haven't announced when we're going to be able to see it. Well, according to this rumor, we are going to be seeing the series debut in May. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's not the greatest source, and there's not other people also reporting on the same rumor, so it's hard for me to substantiate this, but I mean, that almost fits. It almost fits too perfectly even. So we're saying 70% likely that that's going to be a thing. And I think that might be conservative on the opposite direction. I think it's probably slightly more than a 70, but that's as much comfort as I'm willing to give it in public, I guess. And then we've got Hugh Jackman talking about Deadpool 3. We know Hugh Jackman's going to be in Deadpool 3. We know Wolverine is going to be the character that he plays in Deadpool 3. But what we don't know is exactly how that's going to happen and exactly how that's going to tie them into this new MCU now that Disney owns the Fox Marvel properties. The weird thing about this one comes directly from Hugh Jackman, so I have a reason why I'm doing this. But the likelihood, and I guess we should talk about what the actual rumor is, right? So the actual rumor here is that Hugh Jackman is going to be playing multiple versions of Wolverine in Deadpool 3. And that, again, comes directly from the horse's mouth. Hugh Jackman is the one who's opening for speculation for this. Notice, though, he is not saying explicitly that he is going to be playing multiple versions of Wolverine. He's saying that there might be 2 or 3 different versions of the character that he's playing. There might, you know, it might be something else entirely. He's being very vague, and I think there's a reason for this. The likelihood that what he's saying is going to come to fruition, I'm pretty sure is fairly low. I'm giving this a 40% likely. I think that's pretty generous because I honestly don't think this is going to happen at all. Like, there's very little in me that believes that there's going to be multiple versions of Wolverine played by Hugh Jackman. Will there be multiple versions of Wolverine? Well, if other rumors we've heard about Deadpool 3 are true, then very likely, because it's going to be a multiversal kind of situation. Will those other versions of Wolverine be played by Hugh Jackman? Not super likely. The reason I'm saying this is because I think that Disney Marvel has decided to go in a bit of a different direction when they're dealing with the actors playing these roles, because we have Tom Holland probably to thank for this one, as well as the California legislature, because California has made it illegal for movie studios to put misleading stuff in movie trailers. So the Hulk debacle of the Avengers movie, that he was in the trailer in a certain scene and then he was dead by the time we got to that scene, or he disappeared. He was not snapped. What was it? He was out of commission to some degree, because he didn't get snapped away, because otherwise he wouldn't have been able to fix it. But either way, the Hulk in the Avengers trailer was not in that scene that we got in the trailer. And then, you know, the thing that brought it about was a totally different movie that is irrelevant to this conversation. But there is now a law in the state of California that says you cannot put something in the trailer that is purposefully misleading in as much as it doesn't exist at all in the movie. So Hulk being in that scene would now be illegal in that trailer. And then whatever the movie that caused the lawsuit. So I think instead of them giving us, you know, red herrings in trailers, they're instructing their actors to give us those red herrings that they would otherwise want to put in trailers. So yeah, I think this is just a marketing ploy to throw people off the scent, if you will. I don't think that Hugh Jackman is going to play more than just the one version of Wolverine. There you go. If you are lost by any of this information, if you don't know what previous rumors I'm talking about or why we're following up on certain things because you haven't watched previous episodes, you're gonna have to go watch previous episodes, and that's gonna be, you know, click or tap the box that shows up to the side of my face right now on the screen. If you're watching on the YouTubes, if you're listening on any of the audio, then go find me on the YouTubes at Generally Nerdy. At Nerd News Clips is the other channel. You can find this in a smaller, more digestible way of doing things. That is everything we have for the episode. Thank you very much, nerds. We'll see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.